Welcome to Creator's Edge Studio. I'm Tom Marcoux.
And I'm Jon Colton.
In this episode, we're talking about Loki, Superman, and J. Michael Straczynski. And we're looking at how we can all get better as creators. So let's start with Loki. Jon, what's your take on Loki?
My daughter is really into everything MCU.
Yeah.
And so that's kind of a thing that we do together.
Cool.
I kind of have mixed feelings on it.
I'm here. What do you got?
From the first episode, Loki seemed not as smart or as strong as he was in the movies.
Well, that's
And
for sure.
what I mean is, he's an Asgardian.
Right.
He's Thor's brother. And Thor is as strong as Superman.
Got it.
And Thor is bulletproof.
Oh, I see.
And Thor does battle with the Incredible Hulk.
Mhm.
Now, Loki is not as strong as Thor.
Well, he's also a ice
Right.
person too, right?
An ice giant, which are also incredibly strong. Now, Loki is not as strong as Thor, but you remember the scene in the Avengers where the Hulk grabs Loki and whips him back and forth, smashes him into the floor?
Right.
Well, he walked away from that.
Yeah, that's true.
And was put in handcuffs.
Right.
If that was done to a human, well, all of our bones would be broken, and we
Right.
would be,
Powder.
dead or on life support. But he's an Asgardian.
Interesting.
And then we cut to, the TVA, and they basically knock him out by hitting him with a stick, a human person.
Got it.
From episode 1, I'm like, well, that doesn't really make a ton of sense if this is a continuation of the movie.
Got it.
Yeah, there's just
Well, that was
a bunch of little things like that were just kind of, maybe nitpicky, but maybe not. Maybe.
Well, I'm wondering, I would hope that the director talked to the producers and said, are we really going to knock him out with a stick? So that they had the conversation.
And maybe there is an answer for why they were able to do that. Maybe it's some super-powered technological TVA baton. But if that's the case, you should have said so.
Jon, now we're going from Loki to Superman. I really want to thank you, Jon, again, for telling me this story that J. Michael Straczynski wrote about Superman. You told me that Clark Kent, he's a young guy, he's talking to Lisa, a young woman. He tells about how he only had one friend, and that was a cat. She was so important to him. She was with him all the time. They would look at the moon together, and then she died. And Clark Kent tells Lisa, I buried her someplace inappropriate. Maybe I'd get in trouble, but I wanted to be able to see her. And this really got me. He buried her on the moon so that every time he saw the moon, he would remember his dear friend, his cat. As soon as you told me that story, Jon, I just went, I'm buying J. Michael Straczynski's book, Becoming a Writer, Staying a Writer. And I loved it so much. I read it in 4 days, 238 pages. I flew through it. I wish it was longer. It was great. One of the things that he talked about in the book was about ending on the premise. Now, you had a take about that ending on the premise might not be a problem.
Sometimes it's okay to end on the premise.
Mm-hmm.
I think there are a lot of times where ending on the premise is, I get what he's saying, and it's good to have a twist in there.
Mm-hmm.
Because if you just tell the story that everyone thought you were going to, you were predictable.
Right. Yeah, that's the thing.
And you want to keep the audience guessing.
Yes, absolutely.
To a certain degree. But I think in some cases, there are movies where ending on the premise is perfectly fine. Arnold Schwarzenegger. There's no doubt in anyone's mind, all throughout Commando.
Okay.
And if anyone hasn't seen Commando, go watch it. It's it's cheesy terrific.
That's the term for it. It is over the top.
Arnold Schwarzenegger plays a special forces soldier whose daughter gets kidnapped because these people want to force him to do an assassination for them.
Mm-hmm.
Why they can't just do it themselves when they were capable of kidnapping his daughter is anyone's guess. But anyways, throughout the movie, he's taking out the bad guys one by one, or sometimes 60 at a time.
Right, they fall down like cardboard cutouts.
But had that movie have ended any differently,
Hmm.
had you have had a twist where he doesn't kill them all and rescue his daughter,
Hmm.
I think you would have had a upset audience.
Right, a revolt.
And maybe J. Michael Straczynski is playing a little more chess than checkers with his storytelling.
And so the detail that J. Michael Straczynski used, I'm just going to call him Joe because that's his name, and it's easier than saying the whole
It's
name.
less exercise for your mouth.
Truly. He pointed out that Ghost Train, apparently an episode of some program, start off with an older guy saying, hey, there's a ghost train coming. The middle of the story is everybody's trying to talk him out of it. Oh, there's no ghost train. Oh, it's not coming for you. And at the end of the thing, the ghost train arrives and he gets on board and he's gone. He's dead. That's just too predictable, as you said earlier. And my suggestion is if you're writing a story like this, what you do is the ghost train arrives, the conductor walks up, the old guy is ready to go, but instead the conductor says, not for you. And then coming around from behind the old guy is his granddaughter. And she's young and it's shocking, but of course we planted some hints. We did some foreshadowing. Maybe she's precocious. Maybe she understands the flow of life or something like that. But the thing is, that moment of, oh, wow, that's a surprise. In this situation, probably you're right. It's more like chess. We're looking for a different type of story. We're looking for something that will surprise us, make us think, make us possibly cherish life more, because it reminds us how brief, how important, how precious life is.
Speaking of sharper writing, Tom, you're one of my favorite writers, and
Thank you.
you've got a series of novels out.
Yeah, thanks.
And
I'm glad you mentioned it.
So let me just share just a little bit about Gently Storm. The first book of the trilogy is Gently Storm, Magic Rises. It's under my pen name, Raven Aaron James. So here are the words: survive a werewolf attack, duck a dragon's fire breath, face a vampire, and save a new boyfriend. In other words, Tuesday.
You have a project coming up called
Paul Bunyan versus Dracula. It's
What got you
a
into
tall
doing that?
tale of terror.
Excellent. But what got you into it to make that?
Well, I've been wanting to make a graphic novel for a long, long time.
Mm-hmm.
And I've tried several times, tried collaborating with some people, and things always kind of broke down for one reason or another, and led to a lot of disappointment. I finally reached the point where I said, I just want to do something myself, and I will write, pencil, and ink the whole thing. And I was watching a documentary with my son, and it was about the monster movies and monsters throughout history. And at one point, they were going through these list of monsters, and my son turned to me and he said, who do you think would win when it was showing Dracula? And he said, who do you think would win, him or Paul Bunyan? And I thought, that's a great question. Yeah, and that's what comic books are for.
So to learn more about John's Paul Bunyan versus Dracula, go to coltoncomics.com. I see that we're coming to the close of this episode. We have indeed talked about Superman and J. Michael Straczynski and Loki.
Wow, someone made it all the way to the end. Hey, you might as well hit the subscribe button while you're here.
Please, yeah, cool.